Alright, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for another PvP guide for TBC? Okay, so today we're probably going to be doing Mage. I tried to make this video last night, but it ended up actually being pretty bad. Like I said, I didn't like it too terribly much, so we're going to redo it today. So to go over the specs that we're going to be using first, basically I consider this to be the main Paladin specs that you could be using in general in TBC. So we got your Deep Red. I'm not 100% on this particular skill tree for Deep Red, but it just gives you a good idea of what Deep Red looks like. We have the Argent Defender Paladin, which I actually have videos on with me dueling. And I talk a lot about how amazing the Argent Defender Paladin is in TBC, and you can see it with your own eyes. Then we have the Holy Shock build that I've been suggesting, where it picks up eye for an eye, and you're extremely mana efficient. Like your burst is you also wear plus healing gear. Your burst is extremely less effective with not extremely less effective. Your burst is maybe 10% less effective in the plus healing gear with this build. But your mana efficiency is absolutely insane. There's also 2 spare skill points, and you can adjust the skills as you see fit. But Sanctified Judgments is basically worth like 50 MP5, and it just makes the build stupidly mana efficient. But you can see that in a lot of my videos. And then there's another theoretical Paladin build where you don't go into this tree at all for Holy Shock, and instead you get Improved Concentration Aura and then Blessing of Sanctuary. So the way I look at PvP and TBC is, if you're doing Arena, you're going to be in an Arena build Paladin spec and gear, right? But what kind of spec do you live in outside of raiding, and when you're just bumming around in the world, or you're doing battlegrounds and so forth and so on? And my answer to that is probably you're going to want a build that at least has Blessing of Sanctuary, because Blessing of Sanctuary, as long as you get it, can allow you to do gold farming out your ass. So the way I look at it is, if you're out in the world bumming around, doing whatever, you're probably either in an Argent Defender Paladin in plus healing gear. Again, I have a video on why plus healing gear is better than just about any other gear you could put on your Paladin. Highly suggest you go watch that so I don't have to make this video too long. And then the other Paladin, if you're more of a Holy Shock enthusiast Paladin, you'll probably want to be bumming around in this gear, because it does pick up Blessing of Sanctuary, and you still have some spell power and blah, 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 blah. You might adjust it a little bit. I'm not entirely sold on the skill point spread. This is 3 out of 3 in pure heart in all cases, because I think it helps you against rogues. I'm not entirely sure if it helps you to resist their poisons or not. I'm not sure the poison is a disease. I don't know. I have to test it. But I'm assuming it does, so I put points in here. Otherwise, you probably want to put points in something that is going to increase your healing, like maybe Holy Power over here. Maybe you put 3 out of 3 in Light's Grace. I don't fucking know. All right. So, core elements for dealing with a mage in particular. Oh, one sec. Let me pause the video. I want to go show something real fast. Okay, let's see here. 3 minutes already. Interesting. All right, so I recently put out a few videos. So this is why this video is why plus healing gear is better than spell power gear, and it's honestly better than even like physical damage based gear. Just because it's just so efficient. The fact that it comes with spell power now is absolutely gross, and it makes your healing so effective. This is basically a video just proving this to be the case. This video, not the 2-hour one. There's a More Holy Reckoning Duels. Maybe it is the 2-hour one. Yeah, okay. So I have a video here, Holy Reckoning Duels, TBC, Rogue, and Mage. So this video here is virtually, oh god, turn off the volume, is basically me doing nothing but dueling mages. And I'm not playing at my best. The mage is theoretically not playing at his best. My gear is not theoretically well optimized. His gear is not theoretically well optimized. But it just gives you an idea of, god damn it, one second, of the base mechanics at play. And some of the base mechanics at play are that you need to kill these damn water elementals. The water elementals have 3,500 hit points, and they're a DPS increaser for the mage somewhere between 35 and 40%. So when a water elemental is up, the mage has an increase in DPS of between 35 to 40% increased DPS. And if you do not kill these water elementals, god damn, that's fucking annoying. you're going to fucking die. So the moral of the story usually is that if the mage has water elemental available and you're not able to kill it, you're going to fucking explode. But if you can kill the water elementals, then you're usually pretty good to go. Yeah, there were 3 water elementals that time. It was kind of gross. I get better and better at these duels as time goes on, because I was trying this thing out, then trying that thing out, and then trying another thing out. So let's see what happens when I actually get better. I have not traded Bubble. He has... If I still have PvP trinkets and I still have Bubble, it means that he hasn't water elemental yet. But the strategy here basically is I'm willing to trade Bubble to kill a water elemental, and then I'm willing to trade PvP trinkets to kill a water elemental. And if I can kill both water elementals, then my mana efficiency and my plus healing gear will make it impossible for this mage to kill me, and it makes it extremely easy for me to kill them. So the mage has to try to kill me with these 2 water elementals that they have available to them, or it's just not going to work. So according to my Bubble and trinkets, he still has 2 water elementals, so I'm curious when he's going to go for it. I personally think that the best thing for a mage to do is to do back-to-back water elemental. Like water elemental, force out my Bubble, then water elemental, and then force out my PvP trinkets, but I could be wrong about that. Okay, so I see the water elemental, I'm running for it. Good mages will run away, and they'll pull the water elemental with them, like he's doing right here. Ideally, you don't want to have to use stun and Bubble to kill them, but if you have to, you know, just do what you have to. Ooh, smart boy. So if they do something like this, you can either try to kill the water elemental still, or you can try to time out the water elemental. The water elementals only last 45 seconds. They have a 3-minute cooldown, which is important to note, which is why, in my opinion, you need to be trading PvP trinkets for a water elemental. Right? Because the PvP trinkets are going to come back up after 3 seconds. I mean, after 3 minutes. So you'll have them available again to trade for the next water elemental. So I should be healing myself here. Okay. And then I want to get a judgment on this. Okay, killed the water elemental with a judgment. And now he just can't kill me. I'm just going to out heal him. La 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 la. And he'll Oom and he'll die. I'm going to start fast forwarding here because I know what's about to happen. Maybe you guys don't. Maybe I'll just let it play out. Alright, so then you enter a stage where he tries to drink, but then you're just chasing him down and you're chunking him with damage over time. So you keep blasting him, he keeps hitting you. He really doesn't want to have to sheep, but he has to do it. You're faster, so you just keep catching him, catching him. Ooh, I can let my health go really low because I don't have any mana. And yeah, but we'll talk more in detail about basically once you get past the water elementals and you can out heal a mage from a mana efficiency perspective and from a DPS perspective, they're just going to die horribly. You can either gear swap on them and kill them from this point, or you can just do what I'm doing in these videos and kind of go like full retard and start chasing them down. In theory, I should have been seal twisting this entire time, but you can see I was like stupidly low mana, so I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll just do it the old-fashioned way. This should be a... Ooh. Usually what happens in these duels, if they sheep and they drink and they sheep and they drink and they sheep and they drink, is you'll kill them in the second bubble. So, the reason why you'll kill them... Well, in theory, what I should be doing is I should be switching to a PvP trinket to help me kill them even without a bubble. But I'm still worried about, like, the water elemental that could come out. So, I still have both PvP trinkets to try to deal with the water elemental, but it shouldn't be a problem because the mage is so low mana. Sometimes the mages will sheep you, and then they will go for a... they'll sheep you and mana up, and then run around like a dumbass, and then sheep you and mana up, and then run around like a dumbass, and eventually they'll get up to like 45% mana, and then they'll go summon a water elemental and try to kill you, so... very interesting stuff. But yeah, you can watch these videos for everything I'm going to talk about today. Basically is showcased in these dueling videos. And I've since respec'd my Paladin a little bit, re-geared my Paladin. So in this video, I think I've got like 11,000 hit points, and I've got like a bunch of MP5, even got like an MP5 flask up here. And eventually I discovered after this video, I was like, wow, I'm so mana efficient, I don't really need this flask. Let me instead go for like an extra 2,000 hit points. So when I duel mages now, I have between 13 and 14,000 hit points. And it's just much more comfortable. All right, so watch this Ice Lance. I want to pause this video right here because this is something important to talk about. So when a mage freezes your bitch ass in place, right? Freezes you in place like this. Their frost spells have like a 90% chance to crit you or some shit like that, which means that guaranteed what he's going to do is he's going to frost bolt you, and he's going to do an instant cast frost spell, usually an ice lance. And the ice lance, both of these are probably going to crit you, almost 100% guaranteed. And the ice lance does ×4 damage when it hits you when you're frozen in place. So what we're showcasing here is this this almost 2,600 damage is the Frostbolt. Right here, this is the Frostbolt. But this 1724 is the Ice Lance. And I'm not sure this is a crit from the Ice Lance, because I've seen the Ice Lance also come out and hit for like 2,400 damage at the same time. These things are batched, right? They're in the same spell batch, and it just really hurts. And we're going to be talking about when to properly use Blessing of Freedom to try to avoid this shit. But you can see I think I was counterspelled, and so I couldn't use Blessing of Freedom. I guess I'm not counterspelled yet, but I'm counterspelled now. So he's going to do it again here. Okay, yeah, so we just did the Ice Lance, because I'm not sure I agree with that. He probably should have tried to charge up Frostbolt. I still don't think that crit. That's weird. It should be, but yeah, I swear to God, they hit you for like 1,400, and it's actually gross. Other things that are a little disturbing are, oh shit, here we go. You got bubble, okay, so we're using trinkets. Oh, this could be bad. I need a holy light. Okay. I need consecration. Okay. Judgment, good boy. Another holy light. A flash of lights are fine. Holy light. Consecrate, judge. You're dead. No, bad boy. Bad pally time. Yeah. So I messed that up a little bit. Usually I was still new at dueling mages at this point, so sometimes I would get in a little bit of a panic mode, and I'm not really... My fingers don't really know what to do for efficiency's sake. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to... the moment you have a free GCD, you put down a consecration, and then you can put down then you can judge into the target, and you're supposed to holy light yourself. But I think I was terrified that he had a counter spell somewhere around here, which is why I was flash of lighting. But no, I was fucked. Okay, so let's talk about the basics. All right, so first off, mages do, and mages will do X amount of DPS, right? And how much DPS they're able to pump out on average is going to be dictated by basically what phase you're in, what gear they're in, blah, 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 blah. So in the current gear that the Endless Private server is on for its dueling realm, mages are doing about 1,000 DPS. It's also important to note that mages are doing stupidly... I talk about all this in the plus on the why healing gear is better video, so I don't want to go too much into detail on this, otherwise the video will be quite long. But just know that mages get like, 6, 7 to 1 mana ratio efficiency. Shadow Priests get stupidly mana efficient with their Mind Flay. Shamans get stupidly mana efficient with their Lightning Bolts. And Warlocks are just fucking mana efficient, period, right? Because they can drain life in the mana tap and drain life and mana tap and blah, 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 blah. Just know that most spellcasters are so stupidly efficient from a mana to damage ratio. They're like getting 6 to 1, 7 to 1 damage to mana ratio, that your holy lights are actually dog shit. Now, what I'm showing you over here is my Argent Defender Paladin. This is literally the build that was showcased in the dueling video. In plus healing gear, he's got 1,700 plus healing, 700 spell power, and then like 150 MP5 and 11k HP. When he switches over a two-hander, this is what his stats turn into. This is, you can theoretically seal twist, but it's really hard to do on the Endless Private server. But some of these are also factored in. One-handed spell power looks like this, and then two-handed spell power are one-handed, slow, melee damage. Basically, this is actually really good for dueling certain classes. You mostly use Seal of Vengeance with this thing. 5 out of 5 stacks, and you're able to ramp like a motherfucker. Again, you can go watch the other videos for that stuff. But the important thing to note here is... It's like, let me get a drink of water. So the main reason why the plus healing gear is just better is, notice I have like 830 spell power when I go one-handed. This is despite the fact that I'm wearing metric shit tons of plus healing gear. If I sacrificed all the plus healing gear and just put on spell power gear instead, I would get this number up to about like 1,000. Okay? but then my plus healing would only be like 1,000. And it's kind of unacceptable, and we're about to talk about why this is. So it has to do with the Holy Light's mana efficiency compared to FOL's mana efficiency. So Holy Light's mana efficiency, even with metric shit tons of plus healing, is complete and utter dog shit. Its HPS, its healing per second, is amazing, but its DPS is absolutely terrible. Oh, by the way, before I forget, this video is going to be a little boring, so rather than watching this video, you might want to listen to what I'm talking about in this video, and then basically go watch this dueling video, assuming your brain can handle tasking. There we go. One thing I cannot do is play a video and talk at the same time unless I'm specifically talking about the video. My brain just is like, I can't multitask to save my life. So, I want to go here. So this is going to be probably just boring from this point on as far as visuals are concerned. Right, so the problem with Holy Light is that it's got enough healing per second to keep you in the fight against most spellcasters, but it doesn't have the mana efficiency as far as healing is concerned to keep you in the fight for any length of time. So what you're going to find is, yeah, you won't die for like 40 seconds while using Holy Lights, but eventually you're going to and you're going to die because it's at best it has a 5-to-1 healing efficiency, even at like 1700 plus healing. And then the fucking spellcasters are doing like 6 or 7-to-1 damage to mana ratio. You're just going to fucking and die. So at first I tried combating this by throwing on a bunch of MP5 gear. And that kind of works, but it also really sucks. This is back when I would be like a heavy spell power paladin. I had like 1,000 spell power, 1,000 plus healing, and I tried putting on MP5 gear and using Holy Lights, and that kind of worked, but it also really sucked at the same time. And eventually, what I discovered is if I just sacrifice the 200 spell power or so, or even less than 200 spell power, and I get on a metric shit ton of plus healing gear, what ends up happening is I'm able to suddenly use FOLs. FOLs become a viable source of healing from an HPS perspective, and because FOLs are significantly more mana efficient just by the nature of their existence, by the nature of being FOL, suddenly you become so mana efficient in your heals that you don't need a metric shit ton of MP5 gear. So this MP5 gear, I ended up cutting it down by like 20 or 30 MP5, and I went up an extra like 2,000 HP, and that has its own issues because I also lost plus healing gear. But you just end up being able to squeeze more efficiency out of your paladin with the plus healing gear than you can with any other type of gear on your paladin. So, and you can watch. I got other videos here that you can watch. So if I go back. Yeah, so this video here has got me dueling some elemental shamans and I think some shadow priests as well. Hopefully the sound is off. Okay, yeah, that looks like an elemental shaman. Yeah, dueling some elemental shamans, and at first I'm getting annihilated by this elemental shaman. But then eventually I figure out that I can kind of just out-heal him with a combination of Holy Lights and Flash of Lights. And I'm just unkillable. So if you watch the duels versus this elemental shaman, at first I'm getting annihilated, and then eventually I stop fucking around with my heals and I start using more Holy Light than Flash of Light, and he just can't deal with it anymore. See if we can showcase this. Come on. What am I fighting now? Nothing? Yeah. So the point is, if you can out-heal a mage, you can pretty much out-heal any other spellcaster class. You can out-heal shadow priests, you can out-heal elemental shamans, you can out-heal just about anything and its dog. Yeah, so I start beating him here for a while, so I ask him to use nothing but lightning bolts, because the whole reason why I was trying to use so many Flash of Lights rather than Holy Lights is I was very concerned that the elemental shaman would do nothing but holy lightning bolts, and they would be too mana efficient for me to handle. So I asked him to do a test where he does his best to kill me with nothing but LBs. In theory, he should be purging me off here, and yeah, you can see he gets really close Now, the thing is that the LBs are extraordinarily mana efficient for him from a DPS, mana to DPS ratio. But if he casts any other type of spell, it becomes significantly less mana efficient for him. But I'm doing my best here, and let's just check out the mana real fast. I'm taking a drink of water. Yeah, come for the Mage guide and get an versus Elemental Shaman guide, lol. Okay, he should kill me here. If he casts any other spell, I think I'm dead. I could have used PvP trinkets or bubbled and still be fine, I think. But yeah, I eventually learned that you have to take the Shaman seriously and do some fucking holy lights. Or did he shock me and I didn't? Yeah, I should have died there, now that I'm looking at it. La 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 la. Okay. Alright, let's see. Alright, back to Mage. So yeah, the moral of the story with the Mage, the grand thing with dueling a Mage is a Mage has two ways to kill you. They can either kill you by using their water elementals, like a 40% DPS increase while they have a water elemental active. The water elemental only has 3,500 hit points, 3-minute cooldown, and they only last 45 seconds. They can also be ice blocked out or cold snapped out. Cold snap has a duration of 8 minutes. That's how they get two frost elementals. Is they cast one frost elemental on the 3-minute cooldown, and then they cold snap out the second elemental, and then they'll have a third frost elemental 3 minutes after that, and then they'll have another one 3 minutes after that, and then within a minute after that, they'll have another cold snap to get out another water elemental. That's kind of the rotation. I've actually died to second cold snap because I forgot that they could cold snap out another water elemental. So something to keep in mind. So step 1 is survive the damn water elementals. Step 2, or more accurately, maybe this is step 1, is you need to try to be able to survive the damn counterspell. So when a Mage counterspells you, they're going to stun you or they're going to silence you for 8 seconds. And if a Mage is doing, again, you can do a mathematical calculation. The Mage does X amount of DPS, and you're unable to get any kind of healing in on yourself for like 9.5 seconds. Literally 8 seconds of silence, plus 1.5 seconds it's going to take you to charge up at a minimum a flash of light, right? And you might think, okay, Holy Shock might be there for me, but what ends up happening is you Holy Shock yourself, and it just stems the tide. It doesn't really do anything, and the next thing you know, you still have to go for that flash of light. So it's always still 9.5 seconds of CC duration, effectively, before you can get any healing in. If you could not survive being counterspelled by a Mage, then you have no fucking hope of beating a Mage. And then things get even weirder, and this goes for Fire Mage or Frost Mage, and things get even weirder because even if you can survive the counterspell of a Mage, you might die to RNG eventually. So, for example, like let's say you're surviving off of Holy Shock, right? You're surviving the counterspell, and then you're Holy Shock healing yourself for like 2,000 hit points. That's about how much it heals you, and when you're in the proper plus healing gear. And you're surviving off of this. Well, you're gonna survive right up until their Frostbolt freezes you in place, and then they just have to Frostbolt and shatter you after that, and you'll explode, right? So it's a single bad RNG lay or a good RNG for the Mage, and you're done. So you have to account in that as well. Okay, so if you're a Paladin that has improved concentration aura, your odds of surviving a counterspell are extremely good, especially if you're in plus healing gear. So if you're in plus healing gear, which is the proper gear to be fighting a Mage in, and you have improved concentration aura, there's almost a 100% guaranteed chance that you can survive a counterspell. The issue is, can you survive a water elemental plus counterspell, right? And so that becomes more of the issue of trying to deal with the water elementals. If you're a type of Paladin that does not have improved concentration aura, then you need to use a neck piece called, it's usually called the Breaker neck piece or the Breaker amulet, which is a neck piece that basically does what improved concentration aura does, except it does it at only 20%. So it reduces silence durations and interrupt durations by like 20%. And it doesn't stack with improved concentration aura. You have to get that and try to survive the day with that. I don't know if you can survive the day with that as a Holy Shock Paladin. Because the neck piece does not exist on the Endless private server, and because the necklace piece does not exist on the Endless private dueling server, I just can't test it, so I just die horribly, right? 9.5 seconds of CC, the fucking mages do over 1,000 DPS. This means I'll be down like, 9,500 hit points, or maybe even 1,100 hit points if they get good RNG. And the Paladin, the Holy Shock Paladin only has 11,000 hit points. And then usually there's like minus 20% HP on you from chip damage because you'll be going for a heal. A Frostbolt will hit your ass. Your heal's about to complete. And then they counterspell you because counterspell is not on the GCD. So you're only at about 80% HP when they start bursting on you. And there's just no fucking way to survive as a Holy Shock Paladin without improved concentration aura or the breaker neck piece. It is just absolutely insane. The Holy Shock Paladin has a bit of an easier time killing the water elementals because you can use Holy Shock and a Judgment and virtually obliterate a water elemental. I think a Holy Shock and a Judgment will do like 2,600 HP in damage. So if you use your free critical strike on the damage, then the water elemental will virtually explode instantaneously. You can do this at range. It's all really good. 1 second, let me pause the video. Yeah, wife had a phone call. My brain can't handle multitasking. Where the hell were we? Yeah, so it's pros and cons versus a mage as a Holy Shock Paladin because you can kill the water elementals extremely good, but then your biggest issue is dealing with the counter spell. However, as an Argent Defender Paladin, it's the complete opposite. Your major issue is dealing with the water elementals, but you can survive the counterspell pretty much no problem, especially when you get up to like, 14k HP and like 1700 plus healing. It's pretty fucking retarded. As far as deep rep paladins go, you're kind of up shit crick without a paddle versus mages, so you have to go into the resist meta. So we're going to be talking about the resist meta probably for the rest of this video. And the reason for this is because I probably should talk about how to kill a mage. So how you kill a mage is you get them to run out of fucking mana first. It's like step one, get them to run out of mana. Survive the frost elementals, or more like kill the frost elementals. Survive the counter spell, and eventually they be more healing efficient than them, or mana efficient with the heals, and eventually you'll get them into low mana mode, where they're just sheeping you and trying to drink, and sheeping you and trying to drink. Once you get them into that state, they're fucking dead. And there's multiple ways to kill them. So, for example, you can switch over to resist gear, like Arcane Resist in particular. So if you switch over to Arcane Resist in particular, when all they have left is sheep trying to kill you, what's going to happen is their sheep will start to break down, and then they're like a PvP trinket away, or a bubble away, or like a series of bad resistances away from, or failed sheep attempts away from just fucking dying, right? And so that's a pretty easy win if you want to go the Arcane Resistance way. The other option is to switch into full DPS gear. And it's like, I want to go back here. The other option is to go into full DPS gear. So is to get out of your plus healing gear and to get into, like, your heavy spell power gear or your burst gear, especially if you're like a Holy Shock Paladin. And theoretically, even the Argent Defender Paladin, he should be switching over to more spell power based DPS gear, or just Arcane Resistance or whatnot. If you're a deep ret Paladin, this is where shit gets very interesting, because you live and die off of the resist gear meta. And the reason for this is because you can't fucking heal in combat, right? Like, you have Repent and you have Stun, and that's about the only fucking thing you can use to heal yourself. You don't even have improved concentration aura, which is kind of a sin. Which means that as a deep ret paladin against a mage, be it a fire or a frost mage, you're going to have to start in a heavy resist suit, and you're going to have to wear them down with the heavy resist suit into low mana mode. right? And once the mage is in low mana mode, you can actually go back to your heavy DPS suit, like an actual physical damage DPS suit, and just use PvP Trinket and Bubble and Repent and fucking murder them. Because they don't have enough mana to actually kill you anymore. And the reason why you have to go super heavy in resist suit is that's actually how you're going to avoid spell pushback. Spell damage-based pushback, since you don't have any pushback immunity. You're going to use the fact that you're completely resisting 50 or 60% of the spells that are coming your way as your fucking pushback immunity for the purposes of healing yourself. So what I suggest is you pick the best pieces of frost resist gear that you can find for your paladin, or frost resist gear or fire resist gear, and then the ones that aren't very good resist gear pieces, like neck piece, I think, and like shoulders aren't very good if I remember correctly. Maybe the rings aren't very good. You make all that stuff like your plus healing gear just to pump up your healing efficiency a little bit. Use Blessing of Light, blah 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 blah. But let's see here, fire resist. Yeah, so the thing I wanted to showcase in this video is that or here by looking at this, is it's literally name a resist in TBC, and there are entire resist suits for it. And one of the main reasons is there's a lot of gear that has like random enchantments on it, and then the random enchantments have the possibility of being all kinds of different resistances. And keep in mind that it's not just plate gear. There's one for there's like random enchant gear for leather and cloth and mail and plate. For just about anything, and you don't really particularly care, so you're like, okay, I'll get some cloth bracers with, like, you know, random fire resist on it or whatever. But a lot of times there's actually dedicated gear, like Ice Guard is an entire set, and Wild Guard is an entire set, and Inferno template leggings is entire set. Some of them are lower than others, so the highest one is Shadow Resist. Shadow Resistance gear, if you're sitting in it pretty heavily, can get up to like 600 Shadow Resist. Arcane Resist gear, if you're sitting in it pretty heavily, can get up to, I think, about 400, maybe 450 resistance, especially if you're willing to use a Magic Resistance Potion. The plus $50 resistance is for 3 minutes, which does not stack with your aura. But of course, you're going to want to use the Breaker neck piece just because. Obviously, I want the other thing. I want fire resist set. Yeah. Okay. So the thing about the other thing is how does it synergize with pen? And the answer is pen gear stops existing past 115 item level, as near as I can tell, and it becomes entirely about the gems. So you can gem either a 10 pen per socket or an extremely expensive 13 pen per socket. And then past that, I think there's like a couple of enchantments that have pretty good pen. But past that, it's extremely difficult for a spellcaster to ever actually get any kind of penetration on their gear. Which means, at most, they can probably go up to about 200 spell pen. So you're looking at a meta where you as a paladin can get up to 500 of just about any resist that you want. And your enemies, if you switch into a resist suit and they're smart enough to switch into a pen suit, you're still going to have over 300 spell resistance on them, because they're going to be at that 200 spell pen and you're going to be at, like, you know, 500 resist. So at that point, their shit's going to start breaking down and they're going to be up shit creek without a paddle. This becomes particularly important if you're dueling warlocks, because you absolutely certain classes. You, as a paladin, you absolutely cannot deal with a pyro mage without a little bit of frost resist gear, and you absolutely cannot deal with a warlock without a little bit of shadow resist gear. Their scaling and efficiency at scaling is just too efficient. They will pop your ass. Since this is a verse mage video, I will talk about my experience dueling fucking pyro mages. So I'm an Argent Defender Paladin with 14,000 hit points, 2 PvP trinkets that can heal me for another like 4,000 hit points. I have improved concentration aura, and it doesn't matter. I fucking die to pyro mages. They will pop your ass almost 100 to 0 on that server, because resistance gear does not exist on that dueling server. However, if I put my my fire resist aura up, which is only 70 fire resist, I discover that it's much easier for me to survive their pyro blast. But I end up dying anyways, because I have pushback issues. Let's go show this over here. against fire mages. So this is the build, right? So I'm not 5 out of 5 in spiritual focus. So if I have fire resist aura up, my pushback immunity is only like 42%. And what ends up happening is either the fire mage's random stunning gets me, like I get stunned at a really bad time and I die because of it, or I get so much pushback and I die because of that. More usually it's I suffer pushback, and then I get stunned while I'm going for a holy light, and I just haven't been healing for like 5 seconds, and I finally come out of that stun, and I start trying to heal myself again, but before my heal goes off, I get counterspelled. I'm fucked, right? So what I've discovered is it's like, okay, well, a little bit of fire resist gear with this type of stats is making me survive the Palm Pyro. Thank God for that. But then I'm just not, they're so stupidly mana efficient that and just tempo efficient that they just kill you anyways. If you watch the against the Frost Mage, if I'm if I'm Flash of Lighting and the Frost Mage is doing whatever the hell Frost Mages are doing for DPS, I'm actually more mana efficient than them. Against the Pyro Mages, if I'm Flash of Lighting and Holy Lighting and trying to keep myself in the fight, they either match me with their mana efficiency or they're more mana efficient than I am, even in like full plus healing gear, and it's gross. So the conclusion I eventually came to against Pyro Mages is that you need something like 2 pieces of fire resist gear. But if you have 2 pieces of fire resist gear, then a fire mage absolutely cannot touch you. And the same kind of goes true for like frost mages as well. So the moral of the story against a mage in its totality is as follows. You need to survive the counterspells. Do whatever the fuck you need to do to survive the counterspells. If you have to put on plus healing gear to survive the counterspells, put on plus healing gear to survive the counterspells. If you have to put on some resist gear to survive the counterspells, put on some resist gear to survive the counterspells. Ideally, you're prioritizing plus healing gear over resist gear to survive the counterspells, but, you know, do what you gotta do to survive the counterspells. The next important thing, of course, is to kill the fucking frost elementals, because they're just this mass that they're basically like wings for like 45-second long wings for the for the mage. So when they only got 3,500 hit points, you gotta deal with those. If you can if you can deal with the mage mana efficiently enough, and you can deal with the mage as burst and their counter spells and all that crap, and you can run them out of mana, they're stupidly easy to kill from there. They're just 1 gear swap away from death, basically, at that point. Or often you don't even have to gear swap. You can just run around and kill them, like, no problem. Against Palm Pyro Mages, you're definitely going to have some resist gear. If you're a deep rep Paladin, like over here, and you have no real pushback immunity whatsoever, you don't have a choice. You have to start that duel or that 1v1 in heavy resist gear. If you find yourself out in the open world, you're just going to have to run. Like, if you're going to automatically fail the gear check and die, then you have to do whatever the hell you have to do as a paladin to run away and get into the proper gear. If that involves using a rocket boots or a swiftness potion or your bubble or all of the above or a nifty stopwatch, or just do whatever the fuck you have to do as a paladin to get the fuck away from that mage, especially pyro mages if they're jumping you. Get into a proper resist suit that you feel comfortable in. You might not have bubble, right? And if you don't have bubble, then if you don't have bubble, like if it costs you bubble to run the fuck away from a mage, then of course you're going to want to factor that into what gear you swap into. Like, no, I want to go the heavy resistance suit to fight this fucker because now I don't have bubble. But just do what you have to do. To be perfectly honest, fighting mages is much easier in classic TBC than it is in classic World of Warcraft, and you can see that in the dueling videos that I put out, where the mage is really struggling to get any mana back off of their sheep, and because of that, they just have it's almost impossible for them to kill you as a paladin if they're just sheeping you and drinking and sheeping you and drinking. The best thing I've ever seen them do is they'll sheep you, and then they'll drink, and then they won't try to damage you at all, and then they'll sheep you and they'll drink and they won't damage you at all, and eventually they get back up to like 60% mana. Like every sheep, they're getting like 15% of their mana back, and so eventually they claw their way back up to having enough mana where they can actually threaten to kill you, and they might have they might even be waiting until they have, god damn it, what is it? Frost Elemental available, plus Cold Snap available. But to be perfectly honest, you've had a million opportunities as a Paladin to gear swap on them. Right? So you have a million opportunities to go into Arcane Resist if you need Arcane Resist to shut down the Sheeps. You have a million opportunities. You're going to have a bubble before they have Ice Block back up. You're going to have PvP Trinket available. There should be a window of opportunity, like this Deep Ret Paladin here, for example, right? But since he has Repent, they can easily go into like a Glass Cannon build and have PvP Trinket and bubble and basically just murder them. There's almost going to be nothing that the mage can do at that point, because they're going to repent the mage is going to blink out of the repent, and then they're going to stun the mage, and they're going to catch back up to the mage, and then they're going to stun the mage, and the mage may or may not try to sheep them, and then they're going to trinket and or bubble the sheeps, and they're just going to proceed to cut the mage to absolute pieces, especially since they don't have... Usually you get Ice Block out of them somewhere along the line. So... it's actually pretty easy. Okay, anything else to talk about versus a mage? Trying to think about what a mage can do exactly. Alright, so if I'm thinking about this rationally, my biggest issue with the whole resist gear meta as a paladin is bag space, right? So what I like to do as a paladin is I like to win my fights, don't get me wrong, but I want to do it with as much available bag space as possible. So, for example, if I was Drakova, I'd be carrying around, like, multiple entire resist suits just to give people the middle finger. But that's not how I like to do it. So, against a fire mage, for example, I might have, like, 3 pieces of fire resist gear, and maybe 4 if I'm a Holy Shock Paladin. And then I would also have, like, a plus healing gear. Right, especially as a Holy Shock Paladin, and I feel very comfortable with that. If I was going up against Frost Mages, I would probably only want the Arcane Resist gear instead. So I might have 3 pieces of, or maybe 4 or 5 pieces of Arcane Resist gear that I'd be carrying around just to deal with annoying ass mages, and then I would have a few pieces of Shadow Resist gear to deal with Shadow Priests. The only... To be perfectly honest, if you're in the plus healing gear builds, the only spellcasters that are going to give you problems are specifically fire mages and specifically warlocks. So aka shadow resist gear and fire resist gear. You're not going to need a lot of fire resist gear to survive against a pyro mage, but finishing off a mage might be a pain in the ass, so you might want to have some arcane resist gear. As a general rule, you might also be it might also not be a bad idea to use arcane resist gear just in general. I haven't tested this out yet, but keep in mind that counterspell is also arcane resist oriented. So if you're wearing arcane resist rather than fire resist, or rather than frost resist, it might just be that their counterspells stop working, or they grotesquely don't work anymore, and that's enough to get you through the day. But I wouldn't bet on it, man. Fuck no. But, yeah, what else is there? You can get by with plus healing gear against the elemental shamans. It's not bad. Worst case scenario against elemental shamans. Let's go back to the other resist here. I want this. Okay, that's definitely not what I want. TBC resist gear. Against elemental shamans, worst case scenario, you put on, a piece of nature resist gear. I notice I didn't stutter there. I don't mean 2, I don't mean 3, I mean a piece of nature resist gear is more than enough for you. For those who don't know, the math on nature resist gear, and this is not definitive, this is just my best guess over years of playing World of Warcraft, is, or in resist gear in general, is your level in resistance. Okay, so if you're level 60 resistance. If you're level 70, then 70 resistance. Your level in resistance is somewhere between 12.5% damage reduction from spells and 15% damage reduction from spells. And then it's somewhere around 18 to 20% chance to fail for spells that do not cause damage. So, for example, in TBC, if you're at 320, no, it should be times 4. So I want 7 times 4, 280. 7 times 5. Okay, we'll do times 5. Your level in resist times 5. So let's say you're at 350 resistance in TBC. And in Classic WoW, this would be the equivalent of 300 resist. So if you're at 350 resistance in TBC, you're getting somewhere in the vicinity of times 5. What is that? That's 50, 60. You're somewhere between 60 to 70% damage reduction from spellcasting damage sources. But then you have this number times 5, like 18. So you're close. You're somewhere between 80 to 90% chance for non-damaging spells to fail. Something like that. You can get probably some better actual stats on it and so forth and so on. But you can already see that a little bit of resist gear is going a metric shit ton of a long way to making you stupidly survivable, which is why, in my opinion, you don't really need too terribly much of it, and it's actually quite painful for a mage or to have pen gear on them. To be perfectly honest, it really hurts them pretty badly. So, you know, like 2, 3 pieces of resist gear, and you're probably suddenly unkillable to many a spellcaster. Especially if you're using the plus healing gear. If you don't use the plus healing gear, then you have to go stupidly heavy on the resistance, just because it's again, it comes back to the whole mana efficiency issue. It's like, okay, if I'm let's say you go no plus healing gear and you're doing a little bit of resistance gear, like you're not going to be able to use FOLs because your FOLs aren't going to be healing enough. Your holy lights are going to be somewhere in the vicinity of like 3 mana per healing ratio, and even if you're reducing the enemy's damage by like 50% from their spellcast, which is actually you being in extremely heavy resist gear, they're still at like a 6 to 7 to 1 mana ratio. So there's a good chance that you might just oom and die, just because you're not that mana efficient, if that makes any sense. So just be aware of all this. As a general rule, you have a much easier time beating spellcasters in TBC than you do in Classic World of Warcraft. Just because the resist gear, at any point in time as a paladin, that you can just say fuck it and lean 100% into the resist gear meta and virtually just shit on anything in its dog. But the one thing that makes the resist gear meta extremely serviceable is using plus healing gear and starting to use making flashes of light viable as your source of healing. So anyways, I'm going to end the video here, and day is full, boys.